On Wednesday, I typically take this day off, meaning I don't have appointments with clients and I can do whatever I want. I can go to the beach. But I love to come on here and just do this morning talk with you. So if you're coming on live, thank you for being here. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate you. And hopefully these tips are giving you some insight into the stress response, into why certain things are happening for you. And I'm doing a little series this week on inflammation and the stress response. Inflammation and stress fat. Um, both of these things, like inflammation, when we think about it, when we think about what is happening when we become inflamed, it's part of our healing. And what happens when we go into fight or flight is we're just disrupting so much in our body that would be normally working a certain way. And that disruption is the thing that causes so much inflammation, which is why my client said, like, he lost inflammation in his face, he lost stress fat in his belly, like within days of not triggering the stress response. And so that stress response is it's on purpose that we're building this inflammation because we're trying to heal the things that we've damaged, including our brain cells. I remember very early in 2010 when I was just collecting a lot of research on the stress response and developing my method. I came across a neurobiologist who was giving a lecture and describing how the stress response, that first flood of hormones, so adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, when that goes out, the way it affects the brain cells is the neurons is that they are very fatigued. He said it's like you're setting them all up on an edge of a cliff, and the slightest change in blood pressure can damage them. And when we go into fight or flight, our blood pressure goes crazy. So, so it's a real pretty serious thing when you think about it. And when you think about just what you notice with your own mind, how you can't remember names, how you feel brain fog, all the things that happen when we go into fight or flight. So then the inflammatory process is to fix everything. So it actually has a good function, just like cortisol, hydrocortisone, cortisone, that's comes from the outer part of the adrenal gland, from the cortex. When that releases out, it has a very good purpose. It's actually going out to our extremities that where we've pulled fat and glucose to go into fight or flight and have all this sugar and fat in our blood so that we can save ourselves. So that when those glucocorticoids go out, we'll call it cortisol because that's what everybody's calling it these days. Like if we release that, it's going out to fix the water, sugar, salt content of the cell. So it's powered back up. So it has a very, very good purpose. That's why people would get cortisone shots in their knees or other parts of the body. It's actually a very helpful drug. But when we're releasing too much of it, that's when we get some of these side effects that people experience, including um, a lowering of the immune system. So I wanted to share, I'm probably going to do another whole post on this, but I thought I've been thinking so much lately of like, what is your end game? And let's go to the stress fat thing and food in general. Um, when I was an athlete in high school and in college, I remember sometimes I would stress out because I ate something that was not particularly healthy for me. I also had a little bit of bravura that my metabolism was so good that I could eat pretty much anything. Um, but sometimes I would eat something and then I'd stress out over the fact that I ate it. And what I realize now is the stressing out over what I ate was far more damaging to my body than the food that I ate. Because your body is so good at taking whatever crap you put in it and somehow dealing with it. It's really pretty amazing that we're walking around and some of us have really, really, really poor diets. The better your diet is, of course, you're getting more nutrition and all of your parts are going to respond to much better nutrition, especially your brain. Your brain loves really good food. I think of it as food by nature. Like the more you can eat food by nature. I miss my garden because I just walk out, pull off a cucumber, eat it right there. I was tell a short story, but I was coaching a client, and it was like way on the other side of my city than the baseball field where I was going to see one of my children's games. And I was on kind of a tight time frame. And um, working with this client, it was a real difficult situation. We were really working on something very special. And when I got done, I was like, normally I'm fueled when I'm working with a client, but after this one, I was actually pretty drained and I was hungry. I was like super hungry. And I must have passed, I don't know, 6 different fast food places between here and actually instead of going straight to the ball field, I stopped in my own driveway. I didn't even go in my house. I went out to the garden. I grabbed some lettuce leaves and some herbs and I like rolled them up, got in the car, and that was my fast food. And it sustained me until the game was over. We all came home and I made supper for everybody. Like it actually sustained me, and I thought, oh, that was the best fast food I ever ate was from my own garden. And so, end game. What is your end game? There's so much about biohacking, like all these different things. Today, there's just like all these things talking about longevity. And I think about my grandmother who lived to be 100 and how very simple her life was. She had her own garden, which she worked until she was well into her 90s. Um, she ate with the seasons pretty much. So like when dandelion greens would come out, she's out there, you get them before the flowers come. She's eating dandelion greens. Like she ate very much to the seasons. Um, was very much in tune with the seasons. She lived in the mountains of New Hampshire. And it's interesting to me, like, what's your end game with some of the things that you do? Are you pushing your body too hard? And I think of the time that my youngest graduated from Columbia, and that weekend he and his roommate, one of his roommates, they put on their gowns, their graduation gowns, and they ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon. At the Brooklyn Half, my middle son and my husband were near the finish line, and a man, I believe in his 30s, collapsed and passed away right in the marathon. And he was a psychologist. It was so tragic. It was, I mean, my son saw it right in front of his eyes. Like he's very tall, I could see it. It's so tragic. And people say, wow, he's in such great shape. Like, what happened? Well, when we push ourselves too hard, especially if you keep triggering the stress response on top of the hard thing you're doing, so you're nervous about your race, or something happens in the race that makes you a little nervous, and you keep releasing more and more from your adrenal glands, you'll start pulling glycogen from your liver and from your heart cells. And that pull, that's the thing that can put you into the danger zone. So I sometimes wonder, like, okay, what's your end game? What do you really desire and want? Some people will come to me and they say, like, I've yo-yoed my whole life. I can't keep the weight off when I lose it. Okay, there's a reason for that. Let's see if we can uncover what that reason is. And then if we can mitigate the release of these stress hormones, your body's going to start to metabolize your food better. Your thyroid is going to be healthier. Like all these things are going to start to make these micro changes. Micro changes. That's another thing. So with this end game in mind, we're in a society that, we grab our little magic box and we get the answer instantly. We don't have to bike to the library like I used to, or walk to the library and go in the reference room and find things, right? We don't have to do that anymore. We have access to so much information and we have it instantly. So if something takes a while, we just don't seem to have the patience for that anymore. I've noticed that too. Like sometimes I can't believe how I don't have as much staying power because I'm used to like the quick click stuff, right? So thinking about that, what is the end game? And so are you just going to take a drug to get the weight off? And what are all those side effects? They're now coming out with just unbelievable side effects of taking certain weight loss drugs. What is the end game that you want? And do you want this to be something that you do for the rest of your life? Are you going to take this drug for the rest of your life? Like, what is your end game? Taking a moment to really think about that, I refer to those as targets, but thinking out even far further. So, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what is your end game? What do you want? I think that we don't take enough time to really think about that. So, we're looking for the instant fix. But there are things we can do that actually set a change in the trajectory of our lives. Okay, so now, like, what's the end game? And it starts today. Like, if you're just seeing me for the very first time, I love to say this to my clients, like, this is the first day of your pressure-free life. The first day that you notice a trigger and you don't trigger the stress response, it makes me very emotional, actually. Like, that is the first moment that you gained control. That's the first moment that you actually gave yourself a window of quality life, but you also added quality life to the end of your life, right in that moment, because your cells are literally rejoicing. Does that make sense? It's like your cells are so happy that you made that choice, that you didn't overreact, spill a whole bunch of catecholamine hormones, which are going to affect everything. And then that second flood, the cortisone, and hydrocortisone, like you prevented all of that. You prevented worrying and anxious thoughts that just happen because of what these hormones do to the brain. So it's like, okay, if you can do it once, you can do it again and again and again. And the breakthrough for me when I'm working with my clients is when they've gone the entire day and they haven't overreacted. They haven't released these huge floods of stress hormones. Like if we can prevent that, that's very, very exciting. It's so exciting. If we can do that for the whole day, that night, when you sleep, it's like hitting a reset button. Your brain goes into its lymphatic system. Your body uses its lymphatic system. It's not trying to spend the whole night trying to get rid of the stress hormones that are in your cells. It's spending the whole night renewing, rejuvenating, which is why my whole skin changed in 8 weeks. Like it was unbelievable. If anyone would have told me, I know how to fix your eczema, I know how to fix your stress acne, I know how to fix those red bumps on the back of your arms, I would have just laughed. Like, I've had this my whole adult life. There's nothing you can do. I've tried every cream. I've tried everything. I've tried diets and creams, but no one explained to me that little annoyances were causing me to trigger the stress response. So I don't get very anxious about big things. I don't get very angry, but boy, do I get annoyed. Like that's my big trigger point is little annoyances. That was the thing that changed and transformed for me. But everybody's different. Maybe for you it's worry. Maybe it's you're so worried about your children, your adult children, or your parents, or like there's all these worries around you. You're financially in stress mode, so everybody's different in what causes them to trigger this response. What's less important is the why behind it, and more important is the action. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think I've ever said it like that before, but we'll spend so much brain space wondering why we're doing all this instead of simply taking little actions to prevent the release of the hormones. And now our brain can think much more clearly. So if we're in that game of trying to figure it out, but we've already released the stress hormones, we're not thinking very well. That's a really huge point that I make in my course with people. So to close out, gosh, I guess we're already at 8:30. I'm just going to wish you a beautiful pressure-free day. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. But what is your end game? And what if you could change that trajectory just a little bit? And now, where are you going? That is deeply what I do here at Pressure Free Living. So wish you a great day. Bye.